and then also everybody can come back and watch it on the city's YouTube channel. So this is a great opportunity. We are just blessed to have Dr. Angela Speck here. She is the lead astronomy professor at Mizzou. She has been an astronomy lover since she was a little girl. She's got her degree in astrophysics at Queen Mary University in London, and then she continued to get her PhD in astronomy at the University College of London. Since she's come to Mizzou, how many years ago has it been now? Nearly 15 years ago. Even back then, she knew this year and this event was going to be huge. So she has been kind of one of the leading task force for getting everybody ready for this event, and we are very honored to have her come here and talk. We are, when she's done talking, Laura and I are going to kind of talk about some of the things that the city has planned and what we have kind of started in place, and then opportunities for everyone in town to be able to get involved and take advantage of this incredible opportunity. So I will turn it over to Speck.
Okay, so we have a whole bunch of screens. I don't know that I can point at any of them. So, hello, everybody. So I'm going to talk to you about this eclipse. It's happening in less than 6 months at this point. It's August 21st this year, and it is going to be a big deal. It's going to happen whether you're ready for it or not. And my job is to try and help you be ready. So one of the things I want to do today is just talk a little bit about why we get eclipses, because that leads into why this one is such a big deal. So you can't actually see the top of this, but this is showing you the moon phases for the whole of this year. Okay, I'm just going to focus in on one of those. This is for March, and if you look on there, you can't quite see the dates, but you know that the moon changes. It goes from full moon, and then it gets smaller and smaller until it's a new moon, and then it starts getting bigger and bigger again. And this is really important to understand why this happens, the connection to how eclipses work. So here I have, basically we've got an image where the sun is coming from somewhere over there, it's coming in, and it's hitting the moon. And when the moon is in the same direction as the sun, we cannot see it. And that's because we have the lit up side is pointing away from us. But as it moves around, and I'm going to concentrate on this one, because otherwise I'm going to get... so if we look at this one here, as the moon is in, it's a new moon, we can't see it, but the moon goes around the Earth, and as it moves around to that first place, now we can see just a small fraction of it. So as we're looking at it, we'll see a crescent. The moon's going to keep moving. As it gets to the sort of 90 degrees away from the direction towards the sun, now we can see half of the lit up side. And it keeps moving around until it gets to the opposite side of the Earth, and now we get full moon. But it's going to keep on moving, and we're going to see it go back down to new moon. It takes 29 and a half days to go from new moon to new moon, or from full moon to full moon, okay? So, my question for all of you is, if the Earth is in the middle, and the moon is on this side, and the sun is over here, why don't we get an eclipse every 29 and a half days? Sorry, I don't actually expect you to answer it. And it's because we have to think in 3 dimensions. So what this is showing you, for that one this time, so that top panel is basically showing you the gridded portion is the plane that has both the Earth and the sun. But if you look at where the orbit of the moon is, where it is in this diagram, it's slightly above. The way you want to think about it is, if you guys were the sun, and my face is the Earth, then most of the time when we have new moon, the moon is down here or up here. It's in the direction towards the sun, but it's not blocking the view. Only when it gets to this point will we actually get an eclipse. And so most of the time, it's like what we see, I don't think oh, it does work. There we go. So you can see here, the moon is here, the sun's somewhere over here, the moon's here, and we do not get an eclipse because it's out of alignment. Only when it's directly lined up are we going to get an eclipse. This also accounts for how we get a full moon. The sunlight comes in, hits the moon, and then bounces back to us. And so we get a full moon most of the time. It's not an eclipse. Okay, so what does this mean for how often we do get eclipses? I'm going to put the whole thing together. So what's going on in this diagram is the sun's in the middle, the Earth is going around the sun, and the moon is going around the Earth. The gridded part shows you the plane that has the Earth and the sun in it. And if we're at this point here, now the moon, at this point, it's at new moon, It is between us and the sun, but it's down below, so if I'm standing on the Earth, I can still see the sun. But as the Earth orbits like this, now when the Earth gets to here, the moon is going to be directly between us and the sun, and we're going to get an eclipse. But the Earth keeps moving, and so it's out of alignment until it gets around to the other side, and it's going to be aligned again. So we actually get a lining up of the Earth, Moon, Sun system twice a year. Happens every 6 months. But not all of them will be total eclipses, and when they are, you have to be on the right place on the planet to get to see it. I'll try and show you what that looks like. So what this one is showing you, go for one of these, it's closer to you. Oh, people in front of can't see that. Okay, so we've got here is the sun, and here's the moon, and here's the Earth. And if you want to be standing on the bit of the Earth here, you're not going to see the sun at all. Okay, so the only place you can stand and not see the sun at all is on that little dark spot there. Okay, that dark spot is about 70 miles across. So even though we get this lining up every 6 months, if you're not on the right bit of the planet, you won't get to see anything. If you're in this slightly lighter colored shadow, you get to see a partial eclipse. What that means is part of the sun is missing. So if you've got the moon here and you're standing here, you'll see this side of the sun, but not this side. So if you're in this section here, you see a partial eclipse, and if you're in this bit here, you see a total eclipse. The sun will be blocked out completely. Now, it isn't going to be just one spot, and that's because the Earth is moving. This blue line shows you the path of the moon, of the Earth. The Earth actually moves through space at about 20 miles every second. Okay? The moon is going to be moving in its orbit, so it's moving this way, and the Earth is spinning. So although this little spot here is where you have to stand to not see the sun, it's not going to stay there for very long, and it draws out a path across the land. In this case, it would be a path across Africa. So you get a path that's a few thousand miles long, but 70 miles wide. So it typically covers about 1,000th of the surface of the Earth. So you start to get the idea that even though on a planetary scale, if you consider the whole planet, we get a total eclipse about once a year, and we get a different type of eclipse in between ones, so we get an eclipse every 6 months. But you have to be on the right bit of the planet. And we haven't had one here in a really long time. I'll come back to that. But I want to show this animation of what's actually going to happen. Let's see. So this is the moon and the Earth at a scale, but they've been squished up in distance because otherwise you can't see anything. And to see the total eclipse, you have to be under this tiny little dark spot. And if you watch this, you can see it's right over the Pacific right now. It's going to hit the Oregon coast. It's going to go over Oregon and Idaho and Wyoming and into Nebraska and Missouri. Oh, it slowed down over Missouri. That's scary. And then it goes over Illinois and Kentucky and Tennessee, a bit of Georgia, and out through the Carolinas. Okay? So that's actually what's going to happen on August 21st. Okay? And you can see that although we have this eclipse, unless you're on that very narrow path, you're not going to get to see a total eclipse. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about what you get to see, because it's kind of cool. So as the moon moves into place, you see a partial eclipse, right? It's not going to suddenly appear in place all at once, it's going to move into place. So what you see on here is, it's actually a time sequence. And, the sun is always moving, right? And as the Earth turns. And so what we see here is this is the real motion. The camera was just set up. It was an exposure at different times. But you need a special filter to be able to see this part where you're looking at it partial eclipse. So you cannot look at the sun without damaging your eyes. You all know that, right? So you need special glasses. Let me get out the Mizzou ones because, obviously I'm a little biased, but so you need glasses like this. And you guys can come up and see them, and I'll show you some of the other ones. These are specially designed to only let in a millionth of the light. Let me demonstrate that just a little bit. If I point my laser pointer at this, nothing gets through. Okay? These are designed to only look at the only thing you can see is the sun. It's the only thing that's bright enough. Everything else looks black. So if you put these on and go outside and look at the sun, not only will it be safe, but it looks kind of like a full moon night. You've got, the sky is too dark. It's not bright enough to let any light in. So it will look black. And if you've cut out most of the light and you only let in a millionth of it, that's about how bright a full moon is. So when you look at the sun just on a regular day wearing these glasses, it looks more or less like a full moon, okay? But without all the craters and things. Okay, so This is what you need to be able to see this part. It takes about 90 minutes from the moon first starting to move in front of the sun to being completely in front. Up to about here, if you weren't paying attention, you wouldn't even notice. It'll look like a normal day. You get to about here, and you blocked out enough light that you start to perceive that there's something weird about the sky, right? And the sky goes kind of like the color that the sky is just after sunset, where it's a little bit darker blue, like early twilight, but it's not dark yet, okay? And that's what it's going to look like through this bit. And then it's going to go from that to this, and it will be full moon dark, and it will do it in seconds. It will go from twilight to full moon dark in a matter of seconds, okay? At this point, what pops up here is the corona, which I'll show you in a minute. At the risk of upsetting some of the people in the audience, I think Corona Beer really ought to sponsor this event. I'll come back to it. So at this point, actually, it's complete. You don't need the glasses. It's only as bright as the full moon, right? You know it doesn't hurt your eyes to look at the full moon, and this is only that bright. So that's what you get to see, and you don't need the glasses at all. But then, as it moves off, you'll start to see the sun showing again, and you need the glasses. Okay? I'm going to do a close-up on what that corona looks like. Basically, it's always there, but it's so faint that if you look at the sun, you can't see the sun during the day. Even if you try, it hurts your eyes. And it's so bright that this really faint stuff that's only a millionth as bright just doesn't show up, right? And you've got the blue sky getting in the way. But once you block out the sun, well, now you can see it. And so it's always there, but we only get to see it when there is an eclipse. And actually, there's still science that we are doing and will be doing during the eclipse on studying this thing. And it's going to be swirling around. So during the eclipse, you will actually get to see this. And your eye has a better dynamic range. What I mean by that is you can perceive more levels of brightness than a camera can. When you try to take a picture with a camera, it tends to, only catch the bright things, right? And so you will actually see more than this image captured. You'll see it out further because your eye can detect more levels of light. Okay? The pink here is real. You'll actually get to see that. It's actually so the sun is mostly made of hydrogen, and it's actually fairly dense hydrogen. But when you get to the surface, the hydrogen there behaves kind of like it's been put in a neon tube. So if you put neon into a tube, it gives you orange. If you put mercury into a tube, you get these. If you put hydrogen into a tube, this is what you get. Okay? It's not in a tube, but this is what you get here, and you can actually see that. Okay? So this is what you see. And here in Boonville, you actually have close to the longest duration. You get 2 minutes and 41 seconds of darkness. It takes about 90 minutes for the moon to move in the way, and you get 2 minutes and 41 seconds of it being full moon dark, and then it's going to start getting lighter. Okay? So the full thing takes about 3 hours, 2.5-ish minutes of darkness. Now, as the moon moves in the way, what this is showing is this is the last thing you see before it becomes fully eclipsed. And what's happening here is the moon is not perfectly smooth, right? It has craters, it has mountains, it has valleys. And so what you're seeing here is the last valley that's still showing a bit of the sun is letting in light, and so it's really bright like that. And this is called the diamond ring. And so this is the last thing you see, and at this point, once you've seen this, you can take off the glasses. You'll see another one of these at this, so the moon is moving this way. There'll be another one over here where the deepest valley is on this side, where it'll be the first place that sunlight comes back through. So you get 2 diamond rings at either end of the total eclipse. Okay? Now, actually, before I talk about that one, let's just back up. I said it's going to be dark like a full moon night. That means you're going to get to see stars. Okay? You get to see stars, any stars that you would see on a full moon night. Full moon's pretty bright, right? You can even have shadows from a full moon. But any stars that you would normally see on a full moon night, you'll get to see. There are about 4 planets that you'll get to see. The stars that are behind the sun in August are the stars of Leo. So actually, that's the constellation that'll be behind the sun. And the brightest star is Regulus. So for anyone who's a Harry Potter fan, you should be happy to see Regulus during the day, on that day. But at the same time, the sun's going to be really high up, and it's going to be dark up here. But around the horizon, and all the way around the horizon, it's going to be like the sun just set. You know, like if you're traveling west, and it takes a long time for it to get dark, and you can see those colors. That's the colors it's going to be all the way around. instead of just being in the direction of the sunset. Right? So this is unlike anything you've ever experienced. And this is why it's such a big deal. Now, I want to digress just briefly. How many of you have heard of the supermoon? Okay. So the definition of the supermoon is actually that the moon has to be within 10% of its biggest size. Now, the moon doesn't really change in size, but its orbit is not exactly circular. So at one end of its orbit, it's a little bit closer, and at the other end, it's a little further away. But you move something further away, it looks smaller. You bring it closer to you, it looks larger. And so the supermoon is when it looks largest. But supermoon, this doesn't always happen at full moon. So actually, we had 3 supermoons last year because the one in November happened. So if you think of full moon as being a moment, it's not just over one night. There is one moment when the sun, earth, moon are properly aligned, right? That is one moment. In November, the time between the moon going through this point where it's closest to us and it being exactly at full moon was 85 minutes. So actually, we were still within 10% in October when it would have been here, and in December when it would have been here. Normally, we only get one full moon that is in that range. Okay? Seems like a little digression, but if we have a full moon with the moon at this end of the orbit, it means the new moon is at this end. When the new moon is that end of the orbit, it's too small. It doesn't block out the sun. And actually, we just had one of those this year. So remember I said that you have an eclipse every 6 months. Well, if we have one in August, we should have had one in February, and we did. But it looked like this. So this is what we call an annular eclipse, because, a donut shape is an annulus. And basically, you can still see the edge of the sun around the edge of the moon. But there's so much sun showing that it doesn't go dark, the sky's still blue, you don't see the corona, you don't see stars during the day. So it's nowhere near as big a deal. We last had an annular eclipse on the US in 2012, but it didn't come over Missouri. It was a good partial here. So it would have looked more like this here. I went down to New Mexico to see it. Actually, the one that just happened, you had to go down to the southern hemisphere to see it. So that's where the pattern was. But that's why, so we get a lining up every 6 months, but only half of them are going to be total eclipses, and the other half look like this. Okay? And you can't do the science that we want to do either, because you can't see the front. Okay? Or stars. We can do stuff with the stars too. Okay, so what this is showing you is a map of the world, and it is showing you every total solar eclipse in a 20-year period. It is the period 2001 to 2020. The blue ones are total eclipses. The red ones are annular, where you can still see the edges. Okay? The one that I talked about that I went down to New Mexico to see was this one here. So we had a partial up in Missouri, but I got to see that ring shape. The one that happens this year is this one here. The one that just happened in February is this red line here. Okay? So unless you're under a blue line on that map, you don't get to see an eclipse. What I want you to take away from this is that in a 20-year period, your chances of actually seeing one is very slim. Right? There's one every year, more or less. Last year's is this one here, over Indonesia. Well, if you live in Indonesia, that's great. But getting to Indonesia is both expensive and time-consuming. It takes 30 hours to get there. I'm married to a volcanologist, and he's been there on field work because they have lots of volcanoes. And yeah, we were going to take the kids, and then I looked at the travel, and I'm like, yeah, you can go here. I'd go if it wasn't for the kids, but I'm not traveling that far with them. So then, if we look at some more of these, a lot of them are over ocean. And that makes sense. Most of the surface of the planet is ocean. But that means that a lot of the time, these are in inaccessible places. And even when they're over land, let's look at this one. It starts in Brazil. Well, that's okay. But then it goes over, well, we have like Sierra Leone into, here's Libya, here's the Middle East, and here's Russia. They're not places you really want to go on vacation. Okay? So although it's, you had that path over land, it was not necessarily somewhere that people would travel. One of the reasons that this one is such a big deal is that not only is it a very highly populated country, but it's also a place that's relatively safe. So we actually have a lot of tourists coming, not just from other places in the US, but also from outside the US. This kind of shows you the same thing. I just want to show you one extra thing on here. Now it's only the total eclipses, so only the blue lines from the last one. But this is for 50 years. You really get the idea that most people never see an eclipse in their lifetime. And so that's why, even though we get an eclipse somewhere on the planet every year, For the US, this one is a really big deal. It's actually the first one we've had in a really long time, and I'll come back to that. Now, if you look here, so this is the 2017 one. There's one in 2024. One that comes up here in 2024. Where they cross is actually Carbondale, Illinois. Now, Boonville will not get a total that time, but the east side of the state does, which means there'll be a really good partial here. And so it'll be really cool anyway. It means from a statewide perspective, it'll be kind of... Okay, so what this is showing you is every single total solar eclipse that has happened on the continental US since the US has been a country. Okay? The last time there was a total solar eclipse on the continental US is this one up here, 1979. Okay? Most people think they've seen an eclipse. If you had to use a pinhole camera, all the glasses, then it wasn't a total eclipse. It was a partial. There have been some really good partials. There's one that most people remember from the mid-90s. There's another one from the mid-80s. Okay? And this one would have been quite good too. But they went over either Canada or the Caribbean, or we haven't had the opportunity to see what we get to see this time around since 1979. Well, you know, I would have been in elementary school. You can probably tell from my accent I didn't live in the US at that time. But my friends who are from up there, a lot of them didn't get to see it because there was so much scaremongering about how dangerous it was to watch it. But it's no more dangerous than a normal day. Okay? On a normal day, you don't worry about going out in the sun, except that you might put some sunscreen on. Right? It's August. You're going to put sunscreen on. But it's no more dangerous. The moon comes between us and the sun. It's actually slightly less dangerous. The problem is that now you're trying to look at the sun, and that's where the danger comes in. Okay? But it isn't more dangerous than normal. A lot of it comes from historical ideas about, well, can you imagine what it was like? It went dark in the middle of the day, and suddenly there's this white fuzzy stuff that you've never seen before, and it looks like a hole in the sky. It's pretty terrifying. So, you know, but there were kids, a friend of mine, in fact, under desks in classrooms with blackout curtains. And one of the things I want to prevent is that happening again. But I want to focus in a little bit. If we look at Missouri, the last time there was a total eclipse visible from Missouri is this one here, 1869. And that wouldn't have hit here. That's over kind of the Hannibal area. There's this one in 1834, basically just Joplin. And then this one in 1806, but it wouldn't have come to here. So this is the first time this bit of the state has had an eclipse since 1442. Okay? So you start to get the idea why, you know, although they're a common occurrence in some senses, this really is rare. Now, you can't actually see the title properly. Actually, it's not all the total eclipses on the US. It's all the total eclipses on the continental US. The last time we had a total eclipse on US soil was 1991 in Hawaii. One of the things I want to do is figure out how many people are going to come and visit. Hawaii doesn't really help me. Hawaii's expensive and hard to get to. But they all have paths, right? So Hawaii's somewhere down here. There's a path that comes up. It hits Baja, Mexico. Parts of the border were closed because so many people were flooding into Mexico. If you didn't have a hotel reservation, you couldn't get into Mexico. Okay? It wasn't closed all the way along, but especially around the bit near San Diego, where there were lots of people, they couldn't handle the crowds. Okay? Now, this was 1991. I don't know how many of you remember what it was like in 1991. I was in college. Okay? I didn't have an email address. I bet none of you had an email address in 1991. I got my first email address in 1993 when I started grad school. Okay? And there was certainly hardly anyone using the internet. Right? And there was certainly no social media. Okay? So I want you to think about this. This bit of border here, and yes, there's a lot of people in California, but this bit of border here was so busy that they had to close it to stop people coming in. Now we have this path that goes all the way across the country, and we have social media, and there are no borders to close for the 350 million people in the country. And we already know that there's lots of people coming from outside, visa issues notwithstanding. And I'll come back to that in a minute. Okay, so this shows you the full-on path. There's a lot of detail on this. I don't expect you to see it all, but basically this is where you have to be to see the total eclipse. But the whole country gets to see a good partial. So my job at the national level is get as many people to come and see the total eclipse as possible. But for all those people who can't, make sure they get to enjoy the partial. Make sure that they see it. And actually, for you guys here in Boonville, you get the total. If you can't get hold of these glasses, it's not a disaster, because you can watch full phase without anything, right? Don't try looking at the partial phases, but you can watch full phase. But if you're in the rest of the country, you need the glasses the whole time. And so it's something that, I'm trying to get everybody excited about. So I want to kind of pull a few things together. This is showing you the path of, there's the little tiny spot going across the country, and that relates to this is where you have to be. I don't know if you can read this, but it goes, so basically up at Chicago, you still get 90% of the sun disappears. Up in Maine, you still get 65%, and that's as far away as you can get. Okay? But also, if you look at this from the point of view of the shadow, so you have to be under the dark spot to see a total, but anywhere under that bigger shadow sees a partial. If we watch it go around one more time, you'll see that it goes over the whole of the US, the whole of Canada, the whole of Central America, Greenland, the Caribbean, and Northern South America. This will be the most watched celestial event ever. This will be the moon landing. Partly because more people have access to ways to watch, but this will be the most watched celestial event ever. And it's partly just because we know about it, and people will go out and watch, and we have ways to make it accessible. This is a little small, but what it's showing you is what happens as the shadow moves along. So it'll go full first in Wyoming, and then in Nebraska, and then here in Missouri, then in Tennessee, then in South Carolina. So you can kind of get this idea that when it goes full here, it's already disappearing in Wyoming, and it hasn't gone yet in South Carolina. One of the things we will be doing is have streaming video through NASA TV from all along the path. So you can watch it and see, oh, it's not full yet, when it goes full in Oregon. And then you can see it going full in different places. It's like, not come here yet. And so that kind of helps you kind of put the pieces together. Now there's one more thing that is really important, especially for you here in Boonville, and that has to do with being on the center line. So the path is 70 miles wide, but you want to be as close to the middle of that path as possible. Boonville is on the center line. Okay? And the reason why is the shadow of the moon is pretty much a circle. Hopefully this does not surprise anybody. And if you are, the circle's moving along, if you're on that center line, you will be under the shadow for longer. The closer to the edge you get, the faster it will go past. It's not faster, but the shorter time you'll be under. And so what you want to be is as close to that center line as possible. And so towns that are actually on the center line are all going to be prime destinations. Okay? Because that's where you're going to get the longest time to see darkness. So in trying to figure out how many people there are that can see totality and how many people will travel, we used census data and we worked out there are actually 12 million people who don't need to go anywhere. Now some of the ones on the edges might want to come to the middle because they don't get very much time. But that's 4% of the population, more or less. Now let's watch what happens as we move out. So there's basically about 50 million people live within 100 miles. 88 million within 200 miles. This is just going to keep going. Essentially, and this is for the whole country, but essentially, there is no one in the country that lives more than 1,000 miles from the path. Okay? So if you're up in Maine, you can still drive down here and get there, and it's a long day's drive. It's a very long day's drive, especially if you have kids. But it's doable. But the important thing to think about here is, if we look at this from just sort of how many people are likely to come to Missouri, for instance, or to your town, there are 4 times as many people live within 100 miles as live on the path. Okay? There are 7 times as many people live within 200 miles. That's people that can get in the car that day, or so they think. I'm not convinced that traffic will allow that to happen. But the eclipse doesn't happen until the early afternoon. People could come in that day. And you're going to get a lot of people that are going to come into Missouri because of, this is the most sensible place to get to. There's a couple of other reasons why I think Missouri will be popular, and then Boonville will be especially popular because it's on the center line. And it's probably the biggest town in Missouri on the center line. St. Joe, I guess, is the other bigger town. So there are a number of things that people think about when they're trying to come and watch an eclipse. And one of the things is cloud cover. It's in August, okay? So this map that I'm showing you now, somebody basically took the cloud cover for the whole country, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, on every August day for 15 years, 2002 to 2006. An average day. It's pretty reasonable. Now, I need to talk through it a little bit because it's not entirely, it's accurate but not precise. What I mean by that is there's nothing wrong with the data. You just need to know why it doesn't necessarily represent what you might think it does. So if we look at this now, first of all, let's look at Missouri. It says, you can't see the numbers here, but this is basically 50% cloud cover. I don't think we have 50% cloud cover in August. Right. So I'm going to talk through why we would get that number using the method. And this was a scientist, a meteorologist that did this. But we're going to start with the path out here. So as we come up here, this looks really good. This is like, 20, 30% cloud cover. Down here, it's sort of 10%. But right here on the ocean, as the shadow hits the coast, it's actually only 10:15 in the morning. And at that time, they still have some of the cloud that they get from being on the ocean. So it's not nearly as good as this suggests. Now, this bit here really is good. This is the best place. Eastern Oregon is the best place to be. Once you get over the Cascades and you're into high desert, it's got the best chance of clear skies. It's high altitude, so the air is thin. So you feel the change in temperature. The temperature changes because you've just walked out the sun. We will feel it. You think about what happens day to night. It might be 100 degrees in the day and then 80 at night. You're going to notice that, right? But if you're up in Eastern Oregon, you're now at high altitude where it's both dry and thinner air, and so you'll feel that temperature change. It's much colder in the desert at night, even in the summer when they're just as hot. If you head into Idaho, more or less the same thing. You can see a little bit of cloud cover here because they have a lot of topography. There's lots of mountains. Get into Wyoming, this is the Tetons. So it goes right over the Grand Tetons National Park. Tetons been sold out for over a year. You can't go there and watch it. Like the whole of Wyoming is full. There's no way. But it looks pretty good. As you head into Nebraska, it's getting a bit worse, but it's not bad. Then you get here and it suddenly gets worse. And part of this is not distinguishing the type of cloud cover. So we actually look at what happens in Missouri. We get 10 days in August with zero cloud. We get 10 days where it's cirrus. Nice wispy stuff that don't stop you from seeing the eclipse, right? If you're really unlucky, there might be a blob that gets in the way, but mostly it's wispy and you can still see what's going on. And then you get 10 days where it sucks and you can't see the sky. Okay? But that means that we should be about this shade of blue and not up here in green yellow. But it's because they haven't distinguished between the types of cloud. And cirrus looks like it's lots of coverage, but it's got lots of gaps that you can see through. So that's why this looks bad. But as you head further east, it really is this bad, because this is August. It's almost hurricane season. So once you get to South Carolina, they are mostly cloudy days. And so people want to be at this end. But if you're up here, in this part here, well, I said, Wyoming's already full. I don't know how many of you have traveled up in that part of the country, but there aren't many big roads. There are lots of windy roads, lots of canyons. If clouds set in, you have no escape route. Okay? Also, not much infrastructure. So up here in the best bit, there is a national park called John Day Fossil Beds. It's a nice national park. It has one visitor center with 8 parking spots. They're terrified. But this is what it's like. You have these places that outside of, if you're here where the Tetons are, yes, they get a lot of visitors. Yellowstone's not quite in the path, but it's right above it. There's more infrastructure, but Jackson Hole's been full for over a year. But if you're anywhere in here, if you need to escape, it's really hard. Even as you head into Nebraska, you've got a main interstate, I-80 goes right across, but then a lot of the roads off of there are actually gravel. And so you don't have the same things that we have. Once you get into Missouri, we have infrastructure. We have big airports. So both Kansas City and St. Louis, big airports, international airports. We have lots of roads. We have I-70. If you're at this end of the state, you've got 4 interstates heading into the path. At this end, you've got at least 3. You've got a lot of big roads in between. And so we have hotels. We have places you can buy food. We have ways to escape if it suddenly gets cloudy. And so Missouri is looking really attractive. A lot of the journalists are coming. Also, we get very slightly, the timing is such that the longest duration is actually right about here in Illinois. It's just south of Carbondale. And it's only a second longer than you get here. Okay, so that also makes us appealing. We're really close to the longest. So I think that Missouri will be more busy than average. And I want you to think about this. Doubling the population all along the path only requires 4% of the US population to want to come and see it. That doesn't include tourists. We know that there are 500 Israeli tourists going to St. Joe. I think half of Japan is coming to Missouri, based on what I've heard from different cities and how many people have booked. And I'm pretty sure most of England's staying in my house. So, you know, so if you start to think about that, a doubling of population really doesn't seem that unreasonable. In the sense that it might happen, not in the sense that it's doable. So those are things that we need to think about. Now, I wanted to close up right on where we are. So this is showing you the path. This is the center line here, and this is the edges, so you can kind of see. And if we look at where, you know, so the longest duration is along here, and this is where, I'm going to zoom in on it. And Columbia is a little north of the, this doesn't show it as well as it should. Let me zoom in a little bit. Sometimes you get weird things happening. Right, so you can see here where that center line goes. So this is the center line. All of these contours show you how the time changes. Okay? So for me here up in Columbia, actually where my house is, I get 2 minutes 36 seconds. Whereas you get 2 minutes 41. But there are people who just want to be on this line. And if you look at it, you know, you've got Marshall, you've got Lathrop, you've got, it's south of St. Joe, it's between Oz and Ashland, it goes through DeSoto, it goes through St. Genevieve. Well, that's pretty much the biggest place on that path. You still get to see it all the way out to here. This is, up here you don't see it, and down here. I think I had one more zoom in. Yeah, so you can really see where the center line goes. Okay. So this is the center line where you get the longest duration. You can see here is 2 minutes 40 seconds, 2 minutes 40 seconds, and this bit here is 2 minutes 41. Okay. So you don't gain a huge amount as you move in, but you do gain some. I didn't actually tell you where the edges are in St. Louis, but just to give you an idea, if you're in St. Louis, you have to be south of I-64 to be able to see it. Actually, the Forest Park, one tiny corner of Forest Park gets totality. Not the zoo, not the Science Center, the tiniest bit in the southwest corner. And that's where the edge is, but they're only going to get second. And as you move down towards the center line, you get so St. Genevieve is right on the center line. Okay, so I want to mention this website, because a couple of people have asked about it already. And I actually have cards, so you don't even need to write it down. I have cards with it written on. So I'm co-chairing this task force. There's two of us that are chairing, me and a solo physicist, but she doesn't live on the path. She lives in Hawaii. And we've got money from the National Science Foundation to help the entire country plan for this. So this website has all sorts of information. It includes a map where you can find events or register events that are going on. And they don't necessarily have to be events on the day. It can be events in preparation. So if you've got things going on that's celebrating it. Like in St. Louis, they're doing a solar fest, actually an Eclipse festival in June and things like that. There's also safety information. One of the things that we did, so I talked about these glasses. This material that's in these glasses is, it's a mylar, but there's actually an international standard for this. And we have endorsements for our safety message, not only from NASA and the National Science Foundation, but also from the American Academy of Ophthalmologists and the American Academy of Optometrists. So we want to get out the message that, yes, you really can use these. It is safe to look at the sun with these. On any day, you put these on, you will be safe. Just don't look at the sun without them. But that safety message is on there. There is a downloadable PDF. There's all sorts of stuff for teachers, for school groups, all that sort of thing. I'm going to finish by showing you an animation of the entire path and just talk a little bit at the end of that about the timing, because the timing is important. Okay, so as you can see the numbers from where you are, on this side there's a little panel. Right now the spot is moving, but it's over the ocean, so you can't tell. It's going to hit the coast of Oregon, and it's going to hit it at 10:15-ish local time. And then it's going to go over Oregon. So this bit has got some cities, but, you know, it's less likely to be clear. This bit's going to be clear, but there's not much there. Going really slow, so I might have to ditch this. This is a huge animation. It always messes with me. So you can see this bit of Idaho, there's not much in there, although I think Trace of the Moon is really close. But it goes over Idaho Falls. Here it goes over the Tetons and Jackson. You can't book anywhere on the path. One of my favorite places, I think, as a place to go and see it, if I wasn't already living on the path, is actually here, Alliance, Nebraska. If you've never been there, they have Carhenge. It is Stonehenge built out of cars. Can you imagine a more fun place to go and watch an eclipse? Then, you know, there's stuff going on here, but like I say, you've got the main interstate, but that's it. Kansas, well, there's nothing. And then, as it goes over here, we've got Marshall, Boonville, Columbia. You can see, as it goes across here, DeSoto, and then it heads into Illinois. Carbondale is ground zero. Oh, it stopped at Carbondale. It's not supposed to do that. So Carbondale is ground zero for NASA because that's where the 2024 eclipse will be too. So they've really been going for it. Although NASA is also going to be based in St. Louis. So I don't know if you noticed what time it went over here, but the time that darkness hits. So it starts, the moon starts moving in the way about 11:45 a.m. But it goes dark. Dark time starts for Boonville at just after 1:11 p.m. Then you have nearly 3 minutes, so it's basically 1:11 to 1:14. And then it starts getting lighter. Now, why is that an advantage? Well, it's daylight savings time. We just switched to daylight savings, right? We add an hour on the daylight savings. But from the point of view of where things are in the sky, noon, by definition, is the sun is at its highest point in the sky. Okay? So at noon every day, the sun should be at the directly south and at the highest point it gets to. Now, that's not quite true because we have time zones. But we're really close to the center of the time zone. So actually, it's pretty close. But in daylight savings, it means the sun goes through that highest point at 1 p.m. So 1:11 p.m., the sun is almost as high as it gets. So it's almost directly south. It's actually not quite. So if you think of it as 0 degrees as north and 180 degrees as south, it's 180 or 3, depending on where you are in the state. So it's only just off of south, and it's really high. So if you're looking at the horizon and you want to find the sun, you have to lift your head up through 60 degrees. What that means is that all you have to be is in a south-facing space, and you will see it. And that makes it much more appealing than places off on the coasts, because they have it much lower in the sky. So for instance, in Oregon, 10:15, but it's really 9:15 from the sun's point of view, the sun is pretty low in the sky, it's easy to block it. You have to have the right point of view. Whereas, you know, outside of the big cities, we really don't have that many tall buildings. It's easy to see. And so that's another reason why Missouri is going to be a big deal. And I'm going to shut up and let you ask me questions.
Daylight time?
Yeah, so this is actually at Central Daylight Savings Time on here. So it is 1:11 p.m. is when it goes dark. Actually, if you picked up one of these, it has the times for Columbia, which is about a minute later, less than a minute. And it's actually something that you can have fun with kids, learning about all sorts of things and getting them to figure out where the sun's going to be and stuff like that.
When do we get the glasses?
That's a great question. Well, I don't know whether you guys have any plans for this, but so these ones are for sale in the bookstore. But actually, this is one of our biggest fears. So remember, I want the whole country to watch this, right? I need 1/3 of a billion of these, or even if we're sharing, 100 million. Right? We know that Google's buying a couple of million, and we've got another charity, the Moore Foundation, buying a couple. But really, the only way this is going to happen is if individual places, cities, even companies start to buy them. Okay? I don't know what the school district will do here. In Columbia, the school district has already bought 30,000 of these. Not the zoo ones, they're their own, that they're giving out. These actually cost less than 50 cents a piece to buy, depending on the book. Buy them in. We are selling these at $1.49 bookstore And all of the profit that we make on it goes into the observatory, which has no line in the budget, and then into student scholarships. If you have schools or you have, I know 4-H in various places across the state are buying them, and then they'll be green with their, logo. I know Girl Scouts are doing some. If schools want to do this, if a PTA can come up with the front the money, you can make money on that. You only need to sell one for every one you want for a kid, and you've made and you've paid for it.
There will be.
If you wanted to buy them and even have them personalized, so I have friends who are getting married that day at Les Bourgeois. They have these made in their wedding design, and that's their party favor. I have that version.
I think also
so
just so I can jump in, that the chamber and the city, we are going to be buying some, and the city is thinking about sending them out to the people that are coming, and I think the chamber is going to be reaching out to their members to have them sell.
We'll get to that when Katie and I talk here in just a few
So
minutes.
just to give you an idea of them though, so this is one that actually we had to, sorry, I just have to tell you the story. So this, oh no, this is a new one. So this is the AAS, which is the American National Society. We actually had to give away a bunch of these for free because they had the wrong information on. So the Solar Physics Division and the High Energy Astrophysics Division, which is small subdisciplines of astronomy, were having their meetings deliberately planned in Jackson Hole for around the eclipse. The hotel reneged on the contract because they realized that they could make more money while paying the penalty. And so they already had logies made with all of the information on, and it was wrong. So anyway, but I want to give you an idea. This is one that was made for the American National Society. This is actually just 3 different companies that are sponsoring the ones that are being given out in Marshall. Sullivan has used their city logo. So you get the idea that, there's lots of ways you can
So it is possible for
Yes.
for us to get it made.
Absolutely, and it's something that I was hoping to get some more sponsorship at bigger levels, but we haven't managed to secure that because it's such a lot of places haven't figured out that this is going to be such a big and a lot of people feel like, well, it's just one day. It's going to be a hell of a day. So,
There is GPS tracking website, actual GPS timeline of
yeah, so if you actually, the website that you want to go to, ours links to it, you can kind of see on here, the Great American Eclipse, the guy who runs that, and he's actually working with some of the big distributors to sell his logo. He's licensed them to sell his logo and stuff, so things will start appearing in Walmart. He is actually a cartographer and an eclipse chaser, but he has put together a lot of amazing materials. And he's got an app. He's got, it's really amazing. So the GreatAmericanEclipse.com is a really amazing website. It's commercial.
You have
So-
a link on there then.
We have a link on ours that will take you there. That's the difference. So NASA also has a very nice website, but they cannot link to .com sites because they're a government website, whereas ours is a non-profit. It's
photography. I'd like to take a photo of it.
okay, so there's a couple of different things. Yeah, so there's a couple of different things. Actually, the recommendation that we make is don't even try. But I'll give you the advice anyway. Just because you've got 2.5 minutes of darkness, and you are in danger of missing it. Trying to take photos. Now, if you're trying to take photos during the partial phase, then that takes a long time, so that's less of an issue. If you're taking them during the partial phase, you need the equivalent of this stuff. There's actually a company out of Warrensburg that sells filters. Buy them now, because they're already starting to be gouged. So there are several different companies that sell them, and there are different filters, and you and I can chat afterwards if you like. But you absolutely need this. If it's a digital, then it can damage the pixels in there. So you need something like this. But then during the full phase, you don't need anything on that. So sometimes it's good to have 2 cameras or have something that's easy to remove. But remember that it's the equivalent, whether you've got this on or it's during the dark time, the equivalent of trying to take a picture of the full moon. People always underestimate how long you have to expose for. You know, I don't know if any of you have ever done this with like your iPhone, and you try to take a picture of the full moon because it looks cool, and it's always blurry because it needs to keep the shutter open for such a long time. Well, now you're making it look like the full moon either through this or during the dark time, and so you really need a tripod. But that's the best advice I can give. I can talk to you about filters afterwards.
Time lapse.
So time lapse is, well, that one that you saw, that was basically kind of what was done, was a time lapse thing where it was every few minutes that, and you know, you can actually see it's 90 minutes and it's only about 15. So, and again, the reason there's a gap between the partials and then the total phases, with this on, you can't quite see it as it gets to that last bit. And so you either want to have two cameras or you have to be ready for taking one off real quick in between. Because the filter that makes it okay to look at the partial phase is too thick to see it during the total phase. But yeah, you can do, and there's actually on the website, I mean, so the cards are here, this website is intended to be kind of a hub for everything. So there's stuff on photography, there's stuff on where to buy things, there's stuff on you know, safety, there's stuff on what to do with your kids, there's more than you can possibly need. Like more than any one person can possibly need, anyway. Any other questions for me? All right.
It's really going to be crazy.
It is, yes, I'm using the word ludicrous.
Mood now.
No, because you want to see this. But if, I was going to say, if you can, so I fully expect there to be a lot of Airbnb type stuff going on. And you can probably make a lot of money. I mean, if you start looking now at what Airbnb is going for along the path, you'll see that there are some ridiculous prices. So yeah, if you've got a space, and I don't think you even have to go the full Airbnb thing. So in 2012, when London hosted the Olympics, there weren't enough hotel rooms in London for all of the people that came in, right? And this is London. So it's kind of a part of a model that you might think about how to think about this. And my mum could have made a fortune just renting out her spare rooms, right? And her house has one bathroom because that's normal in Britain. So there's one toilet in the bathroom, and you know, it's an apartment of 1,000 square feet, and you're going to get one of 3 bedrooms in there. And people would pay £500, £600, £700 a night for that, with nothing else included. Now she didn't because she housed stewards, so like marshals, because they're volunteers and it's expensive to stay on. But that's the sort of model that I could see as where, you know, it's not regular Airbnb where you're renting out your whole place. It's, hey, I have a spare room, you want to stay in it? I mean, I'm at the point where it's, bring a sleeping bag, I can guarantee floor space. And that's running out real fast. Right, so the parking, and that's something that I have met with the state level emergency management agency, but certainly at county levels, I would like, and different places are dealing with this different ways. But yes, people need to be aware of this. I actually got stopped on the way into town because apparently one of my brake lights isn't working. And I got chatting with the young man that stopped me. And they said that they have been discussing it in the Boonville police. So, you know, it's on people's radar. I don't think they realize how big it's going to be. And because it's all the way along the path, some of the things that you might get, so I know that a lot of people come to town for different events like Headless Jamboree or those sorts of things. You won't necessarily get the help that you might get. My way of thinking about this is when we have a football game, I live really close to the stadium. When we have a football game, the emergency services that are on hand dealing with traffic, MUPD, Columbia PD, Boone County Sheriff, and the state troopers. Well, the whole of Columbia is in the path, the whole of Boone County is in the path, and the state troopers need to be spread out across the path. So if you think about traffic like on, you know, a game day, but with a tiny fraction of the available manpower, that's where we're going to be. Scared you?
How do you feel it's going to affect the traffic on that subject at that time?
I won't be entirely surprised if it comes to a stop. And bear in mind that I-70 is in the path. Actually, have a look at it.
Yeah.
So it's not a road you won't be on.
I don't think you want to be on any road if you can help it, frankly. And remember that despite my best efforts, there will be people who will not have heard that this is happening. And they'll be driving and it will go dark. And, there will be accidents. But if we look at this, you can see that by the time you get out to Independence, you're in the path. And it's in the path all the way out to St. Charles. So yes, I-70 is going to be messy. We are working with people there are some organizations that do kind of work with the state level departments of transport to try and coordinate. So they're the sort of people who help when you have like the oversized loads to make sure it transitions from state to state. We're working with them to make sure we have things in place. But yes, I think traffic is going to stop. The U.S. Department of Transport isn't happy about that, but I'd rather they stopped than, died. So. Any other questions? Because I think these ladies would like to tell you their plan.
Well, if nothing else, we'd like to thank Dr. Speck.
So I got to see Dr. Speck's presentation at the Governor's Conference on Tourism, and like all of you are probably now saying, wow, this is going to be a big deal. So we started meeting with city officials, county officials, police department, knowing that just the infrastructure issues are going to be a big deal. And like she said, manning is going to be spread very thin. So we kind of started trying to think of ways, knowing that the hotels are going to be full, which right now they are already over 90% full. We are now thinking of alternative places for people to stay. So we are going to have Kemper Park will pretty much be an entire huge campground. So we will have several hundred people staying in tents at Kemper Park. The main viewing area that we're going to advertise to visitors is going to be out at the airport. We're going to shut down the airport for that day. We'll be able to control traffic going in and going out. It'll be easy access for people to come off of the freeway. MoDOT's already contacted us because, like Angela said, they're going to be scared. They're very scared that people are just going to stop in the middle of the freeway. So they're going to be advertising Boonville as a place to get off and see the eclipse. The more we are thinking about it, just the more things start coming into place. So now we're thinking, okay, well, if we have hundreds of campers that are down there, we obviously don't want them all parking all over Kemper Park. Where are all those couple hundred cars going to go? So those are things that we need to think about. Shuttles within town, churches or any spare ground within the downtown area can charge for parking if people want to be close to the area. The opportunity, obviously our restaurants, have challenges when we have big events in town, being able to feed everyone. So these are great times for churches or organizations or groups to be able to do barbecues or spaghetti dinners or, different, food events to try to help feed the masses that will be here in town. We have a couple different events that are already in plan. Warm Springs Ranch is going to be doing an event. We have Hale Ridge is going to be doing a golf tournament. We have a bike ride that's getting planned. We want to do a festival the day before because we know a lot of these people that are traveling these distances to get here are going to be coming in for the whole weekend leading up. The school has kind of been in discussion on whether they want to be in session or not in session. I think they're leaning towards being in session, but we have to work around the buses getting through town and having to work around the traffic that it's just going to automatically come. I think no matter how much preparation there is, nobody's going to be fully prepared for the numbers that will come, but we want to make sure that we're prepared the best we can and that we will hopefully give people that come a great opportunity for a wonderful event and experience while they're here. And hopefully these people coming in to Boonville for the first time will want to come back again when it's a little less crazy.
That's the goal. Get them here, show them how wonderful Boonville is, and then they want to come back when it's a little less lunatic-y, to use Angela's word. So what we're really asking is, especially businesses that may be closed on a Monday, I know there are a couple of restaurants in the area that Monday is their weekend. If Boonville were to double in population for that weekend, these people have to have a place to eat. They're going to have places to shop, and they're going to have things to do. We really feel it's in your best interest. You will definitely make up what you're going to pay your staff to be open on Monday with all the people that will be in town. So we're highly encouraging all restaurants especially to be open on Sunday and Monday. We think most of the, we're just guessing at this point. Most people are probably going to come in Saturday or Sunday, the ones who are coming in to stay. Now, if you're just driving in from outside 100 miles outside, you probably won't come in till Monday. But they're still going to want something to eat. They're going to, it's August. It's going to be hot. It's going to be humid. They're going to need to be able to buy water. We're wanting to prepare for these little things. Eileen, you were asking about the glasses. The chamber is purchasing glasses, but the question is, how many thousand pair do we purchase? Do we buy enough for the residents of Boonville? That's 8,000 to 10,000 pairs of glasses. Do we prepare for doubling our population? We don't want to buy 20,000 pairs of glasses and only, get rid of 3,000. Then you're stuck with 17,000 pairs. What are you going to do with them? Sit and take up storage space in your basement. So we will be purchasing glasses. We are going to get enough glasses to cover the students in the school district, whether or not they are in session or not. That will also include students at St. Peter and Paul. It's not fair to buy glasses for public schools and not cover the Catholic school as well. So we will also have enough glasses for the students at St. Peter and Paul. And how we will distribute those, we're still figuring that out. Will they be available at various chamber member locations? Maybe Family Shoe Store, Imhoff's Hometown Appliance, the Marketplace. More details on that as we kind of figure out how many pairs of glasses we're going to have. We can get them for 50 cents a pair. Do we sell them for $1? Buy two, buy three for $2 or something like that. We're working on those details. But what we're just highly encouraging is everybody be open. Have a sale. Have some sort of Moonlit Madness sale. Off the top of my head, I don't know what that would entail, but, theme it towards the Eclipse. If you own a restaurant, make up a special menu that you do only on Monday or that weekend. There's lots of opportunities here because people will come. The sun is going to eclipse. It's going to happen. We need to be as ready as we can be.
The city, we are planning to get glasses as well. We want to try to cover the tourist side of the people coming in. So the campers, the people that'll be out at the airport, and we'll probably have some available ahead of time at the visitor center as well. So, it's still, we will get, a couple thousand, but at the same time, if you want to get ones that are themed just for the restaurant, I know like Hotel Frederick, they're already sold out, so they've bought glasses for all their guests as well. So it's, feel free to buy glasses and do it as a fundraiser. Selling water is an easy fundraiser because kind of, she was saying with the feeling like a game day, it's going to be kind of like a tailgate situation where people are going to want to get out there early, get to their spot, stake their claim, and be sitting out there all day. But it's August in Missouri. It's going to be hot, and you don't want to be sitting in the shade watching this. You want to be out in the open. So those are other things that we've been trying to work over the details of making sure that we have emergency services, cooling stations, water available. And like I said, the more you think about it, just the more
things to start.
Deeper it gets.
Are there any plans?
Yes, I think we want to do some viewing at Kemper, probably up on the hill with camping down below, so that the campers don't have to go anywhere if they don't want to. But the viewing sites, we'd like to have some food vendors, beverage vendors, so people will be able to, they're going to be sitting out there for hours on end to be able to have some services there. So,
Same thing.
yeah.
City official.
It'll be a council decision. No, this is a special event, so. But you have to be there's a thing a lot. So I can tell you that. I can tell you that some of the towns along the path, and you know, there's a lot of stuff goes around on social media. I'm trying to keep a track of all of the stories, and a lot of it is towns suspending their rules for that weekend on issues of, you know, how many people can you stay in your house, or, you know, things like that. And the same with these sort of, you know, yes, we need to have extra places to stay, and so the towns have, and it's gone through the council and been approved. But I can find those and pass them on if that's helpful.
That would be great, yeah.
So this is why we wanted to meet, why we wanted to kind of start getting the word out so people can start thinking about these things and we can start working through these issues. We have 50 reserved
we have
currently
50 right
along
now.
with 10 hand washing stations. I'm sure there'll be more that'll be brought in. We're already thinking about all those things too.
So, one thing to consider about the porta potties, most of the ones for Missouri are going to be in Sedalia that weekend, because that's the state fair. So that makes it real tricky.
Yeah.
So just have that in mind, that if you would normally have a source of those.
No, the fair will have ended, but they won't have had a chance to pick them up and clean them to bring them.
Yeah, and I had a company actually reach out to me that we had used for a previous event, and I'm like, well, how's your August 21st weekend looking? Let's go ahead and just, reserve them right now. So I think right now, we want to get ahead of those towns that are all going to be dealing with these same issues and scrambling for resources.
I envision that, yes, we will have at least one more for everybody that wasn't here tonight. Maybe Dr. Speck won't be able to come over, but to hash out more of the details of what's going on. We're asking, if this is a great opportunity for an organization in town to, you can really do something with this. Just call Katie down at the visitor center or call myself down at the chamber office. That way we can put everything in one spot and say, okay, this is everything that's going on in Boonville, whether it's a bike ride on the Katy Trail, it's a golf tournament out at Hale Ridge, it's a barbecue at State Fair Community College, because we're looking at turning their welcome barbecue for the students into a community-wide event, which would help feed everybody that's camping down at Kemper. Just so that everybody knows what's going on, we can put all that information in one page. The city will be getting a website up dedicated solely to the solar eclipse, so everybody can go to one spot for all that information. But that way we know what's going on so that we can pass it, because we're getting calls almost daily. What's Boonville doing for the solar eclipse? Is it too late to get my hotel room? Well, yeah, it's pretty much too late to get your hotel room, but come on over. We will have things to do. We're working on putting together a festival type event. We don't have all the details worked out yet, but the day before, Sunday afternoon, for all these people that have come into town, they're going to need something. They're going to want something to do. I mean, it's boring to sit in your hotel room, and the car museum can only handle so many people, and the shops on Main Street can only handle so many people in there at one time. So we're looking at having a festival type atmosphere down around the depot and the visitor center.
Yes. Yeah, all right within that district, the Depot district.
Well, you want to share?
My homeowners, we have a pretty big yard south area. It might be easier to allow people to live away from
What?
to allow them, I guess, to be overrun. That bad? We're right on Main Street too. So.
Hard to say. I mean, if you've got signs that show that it's private property, I guess it depends how bold people are feeling. Honestly, because you only need to be able to see south, I think that some people will just stand on the side of the street and it'll be fine. It depends on whether people want to sit and watch the whole thing or really want to experience darkness. So there's kind of a trade-off there, right? We have the same issue actually on campus. So it's the first day of classes for Mizzou, and we want all 32,000 students outside. But that means there's no space on campus that we really want to invite people because we're going to be using it. But we're a public space, so how do we stop people from coming there? So, you know, I kind of like the idea of being, you know, not encouraging people, but just not getting stressed out about it if they appear.
That's what I mean, it's just, I mean, it's almost better to invite them in and give them shade and maybe even have water or something. Other than facing everywhere.
Or make money on it, actually charge people.
Sure.
Yes, Dennis?
Use it as an opportunity, not as something that's going to time, but opportunity. So many people, so much. Get your Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts, your church groups, your club, as far as people moving in yards. Little kids selling bottles of money they can bring. They're trying to rush them out. Well, not disrupting our town. They're coming here to get, coming in here to make popular, this override. This is, honestly, there's a good possibility you're whether or not to have school, going to have a lot of people. Instead of looking at it, look at it as dance every church in town to bring in every business. Restaurants will have to have a item menu. You're going to have so many people coming in, you're going to have a item. A lot of these towns will have church do stuff. They cook spaghetti for 2,000 people. They ran out of there was 2,000 people before 6 o'clock. Praise it.
This is why we want to meet now, so people have time to prepare for the chaos. You're welcome. Like I said, there's some information. If you didn't get it when you first came in, we've got some information up here. We've also put in a little suggestion basket too. You know, feel free to take one, and if you have an idea or a suggestion, you want to be contacted, or just anonymously want to put something in, feel free to leave that there, or reach out to us. Our contact information for both Laura and I is on the back of this sheet as well. Like I said, why we did this here so that we can re-air it and people can come back and keep helping spread the word around town so that we know that this is going to be a big deal. Yeah, I know the school is a big issue, whether there's positives and negatives about the being in session or not. I know Angela said it's a really good positive thing for them to be in session because this is going to be a huge educational opportunity, and I know the teachers, I think, are really leaning towards that, but I know getting buses through town and everything is a challenge. So as far as, you know, people coming into town, we have kind of tear off maps that we already do at the hotels and everything. We're planning on basically theming those to the solar eclipse, if we have to do shuttles around, we will have shuttle spots. We will have information on what, you know, restaurants, what, you know, if a church is doing a dinner or anything like that, what festivals are going on, we're going to have that listed on there. And we will have, right now we have directions to Warm Springs Ranch on there because that's usually one of the biggest questions. We'll have directions out to the airport viewing site. You know, just those different things we want to keep as we get closer. We'll come up with posters, newsletters, Facebook. Like we said, we're going to have a website dedicated just to information about what's going on. So if you are part of a group or, you know, something that's planning an activity or an event around the eclipse, let us know and we can help get it out there. We're happy to use our outlets to help spread the word in town and help, you know, let people know Boonville's a place that'll be great to come to and you'll have a good time while you're here experiencing this once in a lifetime event.
Christy, I saw your hand up.
What about alcohol?
Yes, please.
So you like make sure that you're gonna have everything at the airport and have dinner booths, a beer garden, or you
I'm
gonna let
sure
people
there will
bring
be
their
a
own,
beer
or-
garden in town. a lot of our events usually have it. I don't know, if we will do necessarily alcohol at the airport location, just because, we're having people getting right back on the highway. Part of doing it there is that we can really control the traffic going in and control the traffic going out. It's easy access for people coming off of I-70 to get to it. But for the people in town, we want to advertise a few locations, main locations to go to, whether it's Kemper or the airport. But I know everyone here is already thinking about where I want to be when, where's my little spot. And so for the local people, we kind of want to leave those little secret hidden spots up to everyone else to decide and not necessarily advertise those to the public. But if you want to charge for a lawn chair to sit in your yard, go for it. This is a great opportunity to do something like that.
It's gonna be hard as business owners might have to close their business long enough to go watch and then come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's right after, it's going to be, it's eclipsing during lunch. But
I think most of our festivals and things we want to do the day before, leaving the day of, for the viewing. Like I said, it could be a tailgate kind of situation where people are going to want to kind of stake their claim, figure out where they want to be, and be ready to watch the event. Well, the event's on Monday. Yeah.
come in Sunday, leave Monday evening, Tuesday morning, kind of what we're envisioning. And they might leave Monday afternoon. It just really depends on how far they have to drive. Or if they get out to, if I-70 is a standstill, you might as well stay.
I should share another one of those stories about previous eclipses. So 1995, there was a big eclipse in Thailand. It was north of Bangkok. A friend who went out there knew that they wanted to scout out this spot. So they went up a few days early from Bangkok to this place, 40 minutes drive. And they found where they wanted to be. 40 minutes to get there, 10 hours to get back.
Good grief, my goodness.
So yeah, people may not be able to actually get out when they want to.
And we have people that are already coming to town to scout us. We've had people from Texas, from Michigan, everywhere that are already coming in to check out Boonville, already make their reservations, trying to figure out what's going on, what kind of activities are going on. A lot of towns are still in these planning modes, and so you look and it's like, we're doing something, but details to come, and that's kind of where we're at that point of, we are in the planning and the city has been meeting, but we're more, I think like ML said, we're more working on the backbone. How are we going to handle infrastructure-wise of the types of people coming in? And so the chamber will be able to help kind of handle the events and the things that are going on in town, and so together we'll be able to kind of help make
this
this
off.
a great, hopefully a great event for everybody.
We're already seeing.
Well,
Yeah.
I know the Hotel Frederick, I spoke to a lady, she was from Georgia or Alabama, I forget which now. She got the last room for that weekend at the Hotel Frederick last September. So, they have been, they're coming. We have to be ready. Yeah, she got the last room, and it wasn't quite what she wanted, but it was the last room available. So she said, we'll make do.
And even,
I don't think we realize, this is like I have been contacted by two people from Australia, London. That's just 3 hours.
I've had several people from Colombia. Colombia is going to get to see it, but they don't want to deal with 200,000 people. They'd rather come over here and deal with potentially 15,000 people. So, we're possibly going to draw from even just around the area, just because the crowd size will be less. So we just wanted to give everybody, this will be happening. Here's kind of what some of the things we have planned. This is like I said, this is a great opportunity for businesses, have a sale, have promotional items, organizations to have a spaghetti supper, have a barbecue, garage sale. That'd be a fabulous weekend to have a garage sale.
theme items out, T-shirts,
Yeah, go into
gift
the
items.
water business. That's
For
great.
people that are traveling internationally, this is gonna be a big deal. They want that, you know, that T-shirt that says I was in Boonville. Yes. So we're already working on designs, everybody.
Put a pirate on there, we'll be good.
Yeah, and, sorry,
We are
I
having.
think both entities are
Yeah,
working on
tourism's gonna
t-shirts.
have some t-shirts, the chamber, we're having some t-shirts designed. I met with someone actually yesterday and we discussed a t-shirt design, so hopefully I'll have an idea of what that's gonna look like here in the next couple weeks. Yes, sir. Well, I'll get on that.
Yeah. Getting supplies, places.
Yeah, you know, you're,
Yeah,
yeah, because if they park and block Main Street, there could be a riot.
yeah, and that's why everybody needs to prepare ahead of time and,
You won't be eating bread and hot dogs at Walmart.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So you think about, you know, our potential, you know, ice storm that everybody thought we were gonna have and how you couldn't find water or milk or bread or anything, you know, this is gonna be so much worse. So yeah, the stores need to be stocked. Gas, you know,
All those
you've
cars.
got all those cars that are traveling distance and you need to fill up. Yeah. So as a local resident, I would fill up like the week before, stock up and be ready.
You know, it'd be good if you could talk to your, what's going on. Maybe they can't.
That's,
We don't
just
get
not
any
talking
deliveries on
about.
Monday anyway, we're talking like.
I say, and then you run into where are you gonna put all this before you go to use it?
Of course, having a limited.
Having some cold items or, you know, things that, you know, are gonna take.
Lots
fryers
of
and
sandwiches.
heaters and stuff.
Lots of ham sandwiches.
Yeah.
Flyers will work with you. One of the biggest things you have to
I just want to, they want to borrow next.
You may regret that you offered that up.
4 or 5 ice machines right now.
Your ice company might be buy a refrigerator
Yeah.
truck.
That's true, that's not a bad idea.
Package it up and sell it.
So yeah,
Semi trailer out back.
Dennis, I'm not sure. Or an ice.
Your ice companies, your ice providers would be more than happy to bring a truck, trailer that's refrigerated, grocery suppliers, restaurants. But what this is, I'd be willing to bet if you get them, they will bring you groceries. They want to sell their product. Help you. If you let them know ahead of time, we'll be
Just like porta potties, reserve ahead of time. Get ahead of everybody else. And like I said, the more you think about it, just the deeper and deeper it gets, so.
you think of one thing and then suddenly you're like, oh, well, we'll need this and then this and.
There's that many people, restaurants, little booze back there to take care of. There can be.
Start stocking up on hot dogs.
Seriously, to be that bad, I mean, that may.
Right, but I think somebody already said the idea of having churches do sort of things that they do, like a chili cook-off or something like that. But you can do things where you feed large quantities of people. I mean, honestly, one of the ways we've been trying to push this is to say, this is like we're having a natural disaster. It's just we know it's coming. And it's that sort of, you know, think about it as, you know, soup kitchens. But, you know, that's I mean, I literally have 30 people staying in my house. And, you know, I have 4 toilets, so maybe we'll survive. But I don't know how I feed that many people. I'm investing in crock pots. So.
And that brings another point, I mean, like when, you know, the Ryan, kind of an example of, but there's people in the front lawn selling food. Is the health inspector gonna go and inspect everybody's front yard? My neighbor wants to sell hot dogs on it.
We have what, two? I don't know how they'd be able to get through town
Yeah,
to do it.
you know, but I'm guessing that's what it's gonna be like, is
Yeah.
a drag race where they have people in their front yard selling beer and water and food. Is the health inspector? Are people gonna be allowed to do that, or are they gonna say?
Well, I think here again, this is something maybe she can do.
Rules are lifted
This is
today.
where suspending rules for that particular weekend may be necessary. And again, this is something that at the national level, we're trying to make sure that we're passing this down through. So, like what was mentioned about food distributors and things like that, we actually want to talk to them from, at the top level. And then if you are talking to them from, the bottom wanting to work with them, then they'll get the message. Because I guarantee that if you call some of them right now and you say, I need to do this, they will laugh at you. You should try, the number of times like, hello, my name's Angela. I'd like to talk to you about the eclipse. Try and,
What eclipse?
right, and it's like, the initial reaction is usually that I must be some sort of religious now. And, and if I can get them up, stay online long enough, it's fine. But right now, there's still, not everybody knows. As we move on, in another couple of months, there's going to be enough press about this that everybody's going to want to help you. But right now, we're not there. But yes, at the national level, we want to be telling people at the top that, this is coming. You need to be ready for this.
We want to be ahead of that mass hysteria that's going to happen when everyone realizes this is a big deal.
We want to have our porta potties reserved, and we do.
And plans in place, and I don't think we're going to need to spend a lot of money saying, come to Boonville, it'll be great, because it's already going to happen. They're coming, whether we need to tell them to come or not. We just need to be prepared, or as prepared as we possibly can be, for them to come when they do get here.
Yeah, the people who are camping in their RV are going to have their generator to run their air conditioner. They're going to have their refrigerator stocked. It's the people who are staying at the Super 8 who are going to, okay, let's go find somewhere for breakfast. Now we need lunch. Now we need some supper. What is there to do? They're still going to want, it's boring. It's hot. It's August. You don't want to sit in your tent. You're going to want to go out and have, I envision the city pool being a disaster that weekend. I really do. It's such a nice place to take your kids. Everybody's going to
this in the pool.
I envision them being very full.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for churches. I mean, not only can they make money by hosting, a food event and stuff, but how many churches downtown do we have that have nice, community center, spaces? They can charge for parking. I mean, I know it may not be, the best idea, but, maybe not having church service that weekend just so that you could take advantage of helping the people that are here in town. Imagine the money they can make for charging for parking and hosting a food event and having a cooling station or just a place for people to get out of the heat for that weekend as well. So, I mean, it's, yeah.
Have a big dinner Sunday after service.
Come to service and then come, for a meal afterwards. So, this is the opportunity to help spread the word, help people start getting on the bandwagon that this is a big deal and we need to be ready for this. This is why we decided to do this here, so that people can come back and watch this presentation and hopefully get on the bandwagon with us.
This is not the last time you will be hearing about this, I guarantee it. You're going to get tired of hearing from Katie and I as we talk about the eclipse, because we just want to make sure that everybody is as prepared as we can be.
Thank you guys for coming tonight.
And if you have any suggestions, have any ideas of something you'd like to see, happen, something, some sort of event, write them down, put them in the box. Please make them a doable type event, so that we want to do things and provide things that the city would like to see.